wanted to start the recording, at least on my side. Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to our one of the early classes of January. So since it's a new year, I thought one thing that would be fun is we kind of start towards the back at the top of the fact book. We don't normally get to cover a lot of the kind of Vorread stuff. But especially because that's more foundational advice, I'll probably be breaking down and that stuff by line and doing a lecture about that later, either probably next month. It seems like the right time for it, along with some of my crazy ideas. We'll talk more about schedule towards the end, but I thought it'd be good to start and talk about Zornhau a little bit. Some things that and kind of like, or at least how I've been kind of interpreting the Zornhau and how I've been kind of modifying that lately, just based on more stuff that I've been reading and learning through taking classes or virtual classes or and just experimentation stuff that we're doing. And some of that is going to be reflect some of the research that have been put forward in a previous lecture about Mensur and a previous lecture about warding. And so, okay, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's go ahead and salute in, and then we'll do some warm-ups. All right, so grab your sword-like object. Today I'm going to be doing challenge mode, mostly because it's the only thing that I have in this apartment that I can swing. All right, so on the left shoulder, an Achtung, attention, begrüße, and on the right shoulder. Okay, so before we begin, let's do some warm-ups. So let's put these devices aside, and we'll try to angle this. All right. For folks who are newer, we do have videos of these warm-ups, but try to follow along the best you can. All right. So, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the way down, touch the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. All the way back. 5, 6, 7, 8. To the floor. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7, 8. Okay, big circles. Reach down, touch the floor with your fingertips. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, arm swings. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Jump. And we're going to do jumping jacks. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the way down into like a sumo position. Sorry, my camera is not wide enough this week. 1, 2, 3, 4, up and down. 5, 6, 7, 8, and down. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, now down, reaching towards your left foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, over to the right. 5, 6, 7, 8. Left foot again. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now deep lunge to the right and see how far you can get down. Make sure your foot's flat on the ground. Keep your back as straight as possible. 1, 2, 3, 4. Other side. 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right? Can I lean this down anymore? Not that much. Okay. So knees in circles and counterclockwise. 1, 2, 3, 4. Clockwise. 5, 6, 7, 8. Back. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Let's do. All right. Making sure you're getting my heel is up. Making sure I'm getting a nice little stretch in the back of my leg there. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great. All right. Excuse me. Grab your longsword or sword trainer-like object. We're going to do some warm-up cuts, practice cuts. All right. So beginning in the Lugensland for the Mensur folks, or the Hoik Vomtog, the Vomtog, High Vomtog for the longsword folks, we're going to cut Oberhau, the Scheitelhau kind of straight down, 0 degrees, to the skull, or the Einhorn height, as we like to say. Okay? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Now, same thing from the Hoikavamtag. We're going to cut to the Sprachfenster, to the long point height, the Sprachfenster height. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, good. Now from same thing, same height, high Vomtag, we're going to cut all the way down to Alber. All right, making sure to reach out. Don't do what I just did, which is chicken wing. All right, so we're going to cut all the way down. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, good, good. Now from here, go either, if you have the space, continue using Lugensland or the Hochfrontag. If not, feel free to use the right shoulder Vomtag. Either way, put your right foot forward, and we're going to cut right Oberhau, that Zornhau angle action, okay? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch your feet. So either left shoulder Warmtag or the Hoike Warmtag, and we are going to cut left Oberhau, the left Zornhau, that 45-degree cut to Alber. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right, so same thing. Start with either the Hoik Warmtag or the left shoulder Warmtag. We're going to cut Oberhau. We're going to take a moment to reset into the Mittelhut or the Nebenhut, and then cut Unterhau. All right? Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right, switch your feet. So right foot is now forward from either the high or the shoulder, your choice. We're going to cut right Oberhau, left Unter. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Good, good. All right. Now go into the Mittelhut. Go into the horse stance. Right? Into the Mittelhut on the left-hand side. Cut Mittelhau. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf. Switch your starting sides to the right. Okay. Und sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Great. Okay. So everyone into the right ox. We're going to cut Oberhau. If you have the space for the step, take it. And remember, there's two ways of doing this. You can either go from, you can bring the sword up and around and down, or if you want challenge mode, think of it as trying to rotate the sword around the initial step and then cut, all right? And eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Okay, into the Nebenhut, or the Mittel, or the Schrankhut, the rear Schrankhut. Okay? We're going to do Oberhau with step. All right. If you don't have the space for the step, put your right foot forward. From the Nebenhut, cut Oberhau. All right. And eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Good. Okay. Into ox on or Stier on the left side. Oberhauer step. Then eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Good. Okay. Now let's go to Nebenhut on the left side, and we will do Oberhau mit Tritt. Oberhau with step. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Good. All right. Let's all go into Schrankut on the right side. And so what we'll do is we will do Krumpau, stepping out to the right. All right. So Schrankut. Wish this camera could tilt just a little lower. Oh man. So Schrankut, the barrier guard, and that could be of any of these positions. It kind of turns into Vrahangen here, but Schrankut. Yeah. We're going to do Krumpau such. All right. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. Good. All right. Let's actually switch sides. Schrankut on the left. We are going to then do Krumpau to the open hands. Und eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right. Let us go into Flug on the right-hand side. And from here, we are going to thrust forward into Ox on the right. All right? And eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht, neun, 10. All right, switch sides. We're going to, I'm sorry, it's still on the right-hand flute. What we're going to do now is we're going to now thrust to the left ox. Okay? And eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good, good. Okay. Now into Flug on the left side, and we are going to same thing, and then we're going to thrust into Ox on the left. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, sehr gut. Now from this Flug, we are now going to thrust into the right box. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, great, great. All right, what we'll do now, I want to do some other work from the right Flug. What I want to do is from here, I want to now practice. I'm sorry, let's do the long point. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so from the long point, we are going to practice thrusting. At first, we're going to do elbow height. So when we do this thrust, we want to make sure that it's about this, when it's coming forward, it's about that high, right? And we want to make sure that our nails are pointing to the ground, right? From the Sprachfenster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. The same thing. What we're going to do is instead of doing same height, so I still want it to be about shoulder height, but instead of having your nails down, I want to make sure that your nails are up. Ja? 1, 1. At least on your dominant hand, I should say. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. All right. Now those thrusts are good because it places the sword flat, and that helps it kind of, maybe get between the ribs or like maybe around some areas. But now what we're going to do is target the throat, right? And so I want you to do is just forward and back. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. All right. Quick water break, and then we're going to do a little more cardio, and then we'll get right into that. Puts us at just about 7:30. So yeah, that's good. So quick water break. We'll do a little cardio, and then we'll get into the Zornhau. Okay. All right. Bring it in. Bring it in. We'll do just a little bit of cardio. Nothing too crazy today. So as we've been doing, okay, we're going to do the kicks, the groin kicks, which aren't tournament legal, so don't do them in a tournament. But if you can get your, I know my eventual goal is to be able to kick and get my foot up flat enough that I can actually push off of someone, and that is tournament legal, at least most tournaments. All right, so what we're going to do, start with our knee forward, knee just behind the toe line. So if you look straight down, make sure your knee isn't past your toes, bad, but just behind the toes, and getting a good deep lunge with the back leg. Again, I apologize with the camera. Technical difficulties this week. All right, so beginning with your arms here, we're going to kick up with our right knee, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch your feet. Try to use your core to pull that leg forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch your feet back. Faster. We're going to try to do double time, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, we're gonna do squats. All right, so let's make sure. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, feet together. Give some space on the left. And 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, 1, 8, 1, 9, 1, 10. 1. Shake it out, shake it out. 10 more solo squats. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Whew. 10 push-ups in your own time. All right. 1. When you're done with those, just take a second, stretch it out. All right, another quick water break, then we will get into Zornhau. Everyone feeling good? Everyone got the heart rate up just a little bit? Good way to spend the Friday night, sweating. All right, so let me just get my helper droid set up here. So, while we're getting set up today, like I said, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I thought it would be good to kind of start at the towards the front of the fact book, not the very front. Some of the front matter is a little silly. It's a lot of poetry, but there's also really good fencing advice, and that will be a future workshop day. Kind of breaking that down and discussing it, because it's more conceptual than it is technique-wise, I guess. So we're going to skip ahead and get right into the kind of the action part, the fun part, so to speak. So what we're going to be doing is the going over the Zornhau. Zornhau, or the Wrath Cut, the Wrath Strike, Wrath Hue, is something that I think gets a lot of attention because it's the first thing in the book, and it's also widely discussed. And so what I want to do is kind of show you a couple different versions of it that I've been taught, or a couple different interpretations, and then kind of talk a little bit about where I've landed on it as an instructor and practitioner of HEMA, or at least German longsword tradition, I should say, longsword fencing. Like I said earlier, kind of bring in some of the more recent research I've done as well. So let me grab a stick. All my swords are in storage right now. Okay. So basically, the way the Zornhau is presented as one of the first of the 5 Meisterhauern, or the hidden strikes. It is described as something that is no different than a peasant strike, and it is from, at least in the initial talk, something from the right shoulder that comes down and down upon your opponent's sword. Now, a couple of things that are interesting and important to note here is that when they talk about the Zornhau, it is a knock action. Okay, so what do I mean by that? When they talk about the Zornhau, it's not described as, oh, you're cutting at someone and then this other thing happens. Maybe it is in later texts, but the Zornhau is described in earlier traditions. It just is kind of describing the cut. Now, that might mean that, yes, this 45-degree Oberhau is always called a Zornhau, regardless of its direction. The text doesn't quite get into that, but it is heavily implied that that 45-degree strike from above is Zornhau, right, at the skull. You want it kind of like somewhere here. Yeah? So that way on both sides, that's both sides. And the way it's described in play is that you are approaching someone, your left foot is forward, you're coming to the Zufechten, or you're coming to that prefaces of the fight, and the other person has struck at you from their right shoulder. So luckily, I have my, though I don't have anyone else here, I have my little helper robot. And so let me just arrange that. So my little helper stand droid. Thank you again to everyone who so kindly got together and purchased this for me. It's really been it really changes how I'm able to do these things. It's great. So here we go. I'm going to do this from your perspective first, right? You are first going to play the attacker. So this is your arm. You are basically beginning on the right shoulder. Sorry, boxes in the way. Oh no. You are starting on your right shoulder, and you are going to cut Oberhau. Can't necessarily do that nice 45-degree angle. Maybe I can build like a little adapter to do this sometime in the future. But you know, I think we all get it, right? This is coming in from the right side. Now, what it's now asking me to do, what the text is asking me to do, is as that's coming in, after this person is struck, it wants me, it instructs me to have my left foot forward and my sword also at my right shoulder. Okay. Now, this could be this, this could be this, it could be this, and it's because it's coming from the right shoulder, right? Not saying of the right shoulder, on the right shoulder, right? I'm also going, it says also to strike from the right side. So it's not telling me to come around and strike left, right? It's telling me to, as that person strikes right, also strike from the right, from above. Now, so this, again, this has been kind of interpreted in a few different ways. Let me run through, I'm going to show you three distinct ways, three distinct different versions, and then I'll show you kind of where I've landed. The first version is you just cut forward. Just cut forward, into the cut, and then in. I don't think, personally, that it's exactly as the text implies, because it does, a lot of text talks about Zornhau being this oblique strike. But it is a version of it that kind of does what it's trying to do. So actually, let me back up, because that's a really good question. What are we trying to do with the Zornhau? The idea is that when they strike, you're going to throw an Oberhau. When they do an Oberhau, you also do an Oberhau in such a way that you are able to put a wall of steel between you and the other person's sword, and then you can act in having disrupted their strike. You can then work like to counterattack that person, right? Be it a thrust, a cut, or some other action, right? Other work. So that's essentially what we're trying to do. And this does work, coming right from the shoulder, coming right in, right? Very, very timing dependent. And I will say, as a shorter fighter who is of smaller stature, I have a hard time getting this one to work, especially against larger opponents. It seems to be something that if you can just come straight down and outreach the other person, you're gonna get there. But but then there are other things that can be done if the person kind of knows that's where you're coming from, or if they can just tell you're going to do Scheitelhau, right? I think this straight down 0 degree cut is more in terms of more of how we describe Scheitelhau. And essentially, all right, so that's a version. Another version that I've seen that is quite popular is the sword begins on the right side, and the left foot strike comes out, right? I know I've taught this one a few times. And you still strike that Oberhau against that incoming Oberhau, and boom, other work from here. Now, it works well. It does create that wall of steel, and then it does put you either am Schwert. Then you have to quickly figure out if you're going to stay am Schwert or or off the sword, right? Zum Schwert, which is fine. Again, it works very well, and it does allow you to kind of move in. My one criticism of this, because it does not help with Mensur as much. It doesn't put you in the best Mensur, simply because what I've been finding is if you take that step out, it is hard to demonstrate, again, with a static, overly cooperative stand here. It puts you, you start both drifting immediately towards the strong, right? And it is very reaction dependent. Like you have to both see that person coming in, and you have to kind of match timing a little more. It's very more precise in timing, but it does provide a very nice wall of steel. But again, it's tricky to land mid. I've been finding through personal experimentation, you kind of, and this is something I noticed, like we've been kind of experimenting with this for like a year or so. Or you can choose, I mean, when we were still doing in-person classes, you end up here, like strong, like mid strong to strong and strong. And that's not always a great place to be for a number of reasons, right? Especially if you're a smaller fighter. All right. Now, the Zornhau I tend to lean towards, with an asterisk, is the one that I was taught by my teacher, one of my teachers. The idea is that you would be stepping, you still approach the Zufechten with your left foot forward, as the text states. And then what the text does say is to make sure to move your right foot out with the strike, or when you strike, right? So, boom. Right? So as that sword's coming in, you'd be stepping aside and cutting in. Get a little less pressure here. And so I'd be coming to strike in, basically coming in contact with that person's head, and they're maybe having to hurry to parry it, right? And so that's another version. And this is the version I tend to lean towards, but again, with a caveat. Caveat being, we have to control our Mensur, right? And that can be very difficult, especially because there is a belief that KDF always, or like with sword fencing, we always must move forward, 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 forward forever, which I want that Kampfgeist, that force, that energy, that kind of fighting spirit to kind of help me push that person back or push myself forward. But I also need to, but I need to control that, right? It just can't be blindly buffaloing forward, or even, because if that person's stepping in and they're going to strike, and I'm also stepping in to strike, in order to parry more properly, which means putting my mid-strong to strong on their middle to weak, I have to attack their sword, and we learn later in the text why that's not always great. And even in the preface of the text, we were talking about always make sure to move toward. You always want to make sure to move your sword towards the person whenever possible, because it's safest, right? Always endanger them, and they must react, right? You attack the sword, there's all this other stuff, and the sword might not be there by the time I get there, right? So again, so that brings me back. That brings us back to some of the discussions we were having about Mensur and about warding, right? And what we want to make sure. So again, in terms of warding, we want to make sure that this part of their sword is coming in contact with this part of our sword, right? Now for Mensur, Mensur, the weight, the distances between us, I want to make sure that I want to make sure to use distance to control that, right? How do I take advantage of it in a smart, intelligent, thoughtful way is through exploiting the time of the hand, right? And by that means that my hand is always going to be able to move faster with this action than if I step and strike or step and strike at the same time, right? Because if you start tying this cut to your time of the foot, it slows it down because the foot moves slower than your hands. And part of that is also because you don't want to come in contact with sword person with your foot off the ground, right? That's no good. So you want to make sure that, so you either need that, when your sword is probably somewhere here, like halfway to that person, right? Your foot needs to be on the ground. So the easiest way to exploit this actually is time of the hand, right? You still cut in that Zornhau, that 45-degree cut, thinking forward as that's and so as that sword is coming in, still cut, and then you can step, right? Because then they'll have parry basically with their cut. But what you'll notice is that when you start doing this, you'll have of course this isn't really like a cut, but because your hand because you've controlled the distance and you've been able to move your hands faster than the other person's been able to move their hand and their foot, your sword will reach there first, and you will be in a more advantageous position, and then you can move in for other work, right? Be it that they over parry or under parry, especially if they under parry. Your foot is all ready to go for is already primed to move in for that thrust or that other cut, right? So that's kind of that's the way I've been leaning towards all of this. Your left foot is forward when you cut, but you're not moving to the left because you don't want to create that. You don't want to get too far offline, right? Because that you're not going to be able to manage the distance as well. But if I am letting them do all the moving, and I just deploy my sword in a way that parries their cut, I'm now in control, right? They've expended their motion, their time, their Zeit, that kind of that indes, that beat, right? They've expended theirs, and I can take advantage of it. Yeah, so that's kind of been my most recent kind of interpretation of this. All right. So just real quick, just so we can kind of just kind of follow the first part all the way through. The text basically says you have struck from the right hand side. The sword I will now also deploy an overhew to intercept that strike. Now in the first example given by the book, that person is then over parrying, right? They're strong in the bind, right? Or they're hard in the bind and they're over parrying. Now, if that is the case, hopefully I've parried correctly in such that because essentially what they're doing is they're implying that the swords aren't they haven't reached me. Because if this was the case and we were here, I would be having some problems, right? So there really is a strong case for the fact that we're deployed the swords just, even if they're trying to hit me, I have to come to parry before it gets too close. They are parrying, they are strong in the bind, and to the point where I realize my tip is offline, and I do up and in, right? I prefer to go up and down to the hands and then push down on their hands. But that is up to you. So the idea, the Abnehmen is kind of how we put it in Mensur. So we do the Abnehmen. So again, as Zornhau, I stay with my left foot forward, deploy my sword so that my middle strong is closer to, say, like their middle to weak. Neutral bind is fine. They're pushing up and down. Yeah, so these things are difficult to practice in isolation, right? It's one of the hardest parts of studying KDF virtually. Especially because even if because we're not getting that pressured feedback, right? Even though I can kind of simulate it here, it's not live. It's not live. It's not happening in the moment, right? There are some things we can do to kind of practice this. The first is practicing that, and I know it seems silly to practice cutting that Oberhau with the left foot forward, but because that's again against kind of like our cutting with sharps kind of ethos. But one of the drills, an important drill here that we can be doing, and I'll put my right foot forward, is we can practice it's the stop anytime I want to drill, kind of like when we were doing the Shadowhau drill earlier with practice cuts, cutting to the head, cutting to long point, and then cutting to Alber. We can do this as well with the Zornhau, right? We should be able to do any cut in this. Let me grab something a little shorter so I don't completely destroy my apartment. Let's do a few of these together, all right? So start in either the shoulder Vom-Tag or the high Vom-Tag, and we will cut high, middle, and then low, right? There are different drills we could be doing for this with partners, but all right, let's do a few of these, all right? So into the Vom-Tag, and 1, 2, 3. Reset. I'm going to cut 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And one of the things, part of the reason I do this is because we want to be able to, my inclination would be to tell people to practice doing the Zornhau all the way through, right? Just to keep practicing that single cut, because it is one of the more basic cuts, and it's really good to try to perfect it, right? But it's also good to practice being control by stopping at these different heights. It's good to learn control over the sword, and also if we're going to have our left foot forward, we don't necessarily want to cut left Oberhau because we'll be cutting into our leg. Bad news, right? So cutting, now we can practice with that left foot forward and practice cutting the long point, right? Feeling that structure. and then stepping in with the right foot. Right? Let's do a couple of these. Right? So put your left foot forward. We're going to cut Zornhau from the right, but we're going to cut to long point, like kind of the middle long point height. And eins, step forward with the right foot, and wind to left ox. Okay. Zwei. Woo! Stepping on boxes. Drei. 4. 5. Good. All right. So that's kind of like a good little middle Zornhau. Next part that we can add is from this Vontag, same thing, right? Cutting to that Zornhau, and then lifting our arms up and striking down, right? With that step to the side, right? As if that person is giving that pressure. Now again, you don't want to stop for this one. You don't want to stop in the middle for the second Oberhau. Cut all the way to the floor. So let's put our left foot forward, go into the Vontag. We're going to eins, cut to the long point, step to the side, and then cut Scheitelhau. Lift your arms up to the Vontag, and then strike down. Right? Normally we wouldn't want to go any further than the tip of our opponent's sword, but since we have an imaginary opponent, let's just pretend it's a super long sword. Right? Let's do this again together. Do a couple more of these, and then we're just about out of time. All right, so Vontag, Oberhau, so Zorn to the middle height, step to the side while lifting our arms up, and cut Scheitelhau. Good. 2 more. And 3. 1. Yeah. Good. 1 more for bonus, why not? 5. Good. All right. Yeah, so an awkward way to do it. I apologize. But an interesting, but it is kind of a way to start practicing some of these actions. I recommend that everyone, so it's just about, what is it, like it's 3 of 8. I recommend everyone take like the next half hour or so. These classes are normally 90 minutes, but we do hour-long virtuals. Next like 10, 15 minutes or so to kind of practice doing the Zornhau, just kind of that really, really basic cutting with the right foot forward, 45 degree, and just think about all the little mechanics that go into it, tip out all the way down to Oliver, and then do those 3 heights, kind of practice where we can like practice stopping at those 3 heights, and then some of those other actions, right? So if you're in the middle position, middle height, practice going high to Vontag and then back down. For those folks who know like the changing through, you can cut to the middle height, down to Oliver, and then back up, right? And it's good. We can practice these things wide, and then we can find little fun, creative ways to make them shorter. For folks who I don't have it here, it's already in my other apartment. Or it's packed away, doesn't matter. I recommend getting some metal rings that you can tie to like bungee cord and hang from your ceiling or mount somewhere. And those are good. You can put those to good use for this drill by hanging them, and you can now then start practicing some of that Mensur. Say cutting that Zornhau directly in front of it, and then lifting to thrust directly into the ring. Or just cutting to the middle and then trying to thrust, or cutting high and then winding in. It's good Mensur drills also because they swing around. If you get like the tennis ball, you can kind of plastic bag handles work as a ring. Oh, there we go. So that's great. That's Katie has a really good suggestion there. So get creative with it, and we're all trying to figure out how to practice the more complicated pressure stuff. But for now, just kind of making sure our bodies can keep doing the actions, right? So that brings us to the end of this class. If you have any questions about Zornhau stuff, message me in the Discord. Take a look at the GMAC. We have a whole schedule coming up. Katie will actually be doing a workshop next. I believe it's this coming Tuesday. So there's announcements on Facebook and the Discord and our website about that. Our website is gmac.club. I'm going to put that right into gmac.club is our primary website. And if you get a chance and you're able, we don't charge for these online classes, but I do work for tips. Tips help me kind of provide me with resources to keep these going. All the money that I make during these sessions go right back into more team resources. And probably right now getting my laptop repaired so I can keep doing these classes. So if you get a chance, check out my tip jar, which I'm about to. Normally I have displayed at the bottom of the screen, but I'll drop that right in the chat there. If you can, great. If not, things are crazy right now. Don't worry about it. But yeah, anyway, thank you all so much for coming to class. How can we tip our other presenters? We are working on something for that. I actually will bring that up in our next GMAC meeting and we can try to work something out. So that will be something we should definitely work out because people are working really, really hard to make this move forward and want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to put their tip jar out there. So thank you all so much for coming, and hope you've had a good time. Movie night tonight is going to happen in about a little around 8:30. There'll be announcements on the Discord. Check it out, and I'll see you all there. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming, and I will see you all next week, hopefully at Katie's class. All right, good night.